Welcome back to Real Phonies, where we take a love for movies and television and combine it with very little knowledge about movies and television. I'm your host, Christian. Join with me are my co-host, Joseph.
Hello.
And Jehu.
Cacao!
Finishing up our Halloween Horror for Cowards month with the 1983 seminal classic, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Cult classic, it seems.
Cult classic? I mean, I feel like it...
I didn't realize it. It was apparently a financial disaster.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, John Carpenter credits it for like kind of taking away opportunities from him in the future because it flopped and was trashed by critics at the time of release.
It was a flop, and it was released on the same day as another sci-fi flop.
I also know that. Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I did not realize that. That is some interesting trivia that IMDb gave you about 10 minutes before this podcast started.
Thank you. I only made it about 1/10 of the way through it.
Yeah.
To be fair, I already knew this one thing. Because not that I don't read IMDb trivia, but I've just always thought that it totally makes sense that Blade Runner was a flop at the time. Like, it was just not what America wanted from sci-fi at this time. But I don't have a clue why this flopped at the time. It seemed like it should have fucking done great.
Yeah. This is a remake of The Thing from Outer Space, I believe, which is from like 1951. I've never actually seen that movie. Jehu, have you seen? I know Joseph hasn't, but
I've always meant to watch it, but I never have.
yeah, I debated on watching it today after watching this one just because I was curious. I think it's on Amazon Prime. But The Thing is about a group of... Do we know exactly what these guys' jobs are?
Scientists?
Just some sort of research. It never really says what.
Yeah, none of them really seem qualified to be here.
They've got at least 2 physical doctors on staff, like medical doctors, which seems like an inordinate amount for a very small research crew.
1 cook, and then everyone else is just security. But there's like no...
And a helicopter pilot.
And a helicopter pilot. That's a good point.
Helicopter pilot who seems like both an independent contractor and in charge.
Yep.
Are in Antarctica when a mysterious happenings start to occur and discovering I don't think it's a spoiler to say that they discover a spaceship and there's an alien shape-shifting and taking over people. And yeah, I mean, this movie's, I think, pretty well watched and pretty well received. I mean, I know we said it wasn't at the time, but since then, like, Joseph,
for sure.
I mean, you were one of the few people I know who hadn't seen it.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, I think it's very widely regarded as a classic. Even though I hadn't seen it, I knew a lot about this movie because it's so ingrained in the popular culture, I feel like.
You've talked a lot about how you won't watch Godfather because you've just seen things that make fun of the Godfather bits so much. Uh-huh. And I felt like that was true for this movie as well. Like I
only knew the ending and the beginning of this movie. Everything in the middle I didn't know.
Well, I just mean like so many of the bits we've now seen replaced or taken again in other science fiction or pop culture things. I think the Thing has a pretty wide influence on science fiction and horror directors out making movies today.
It basically, if you have a sci-fi show, it's become the basis for when you do your bottle episode. It's this.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
You know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Despite the fact that I refused to watch movies before 1990, I know it's stupid for me to think that really anything in this movie is, really original. Like you said, it's already a remake of another 50s movie that presumptively has a similar premise. But I like the premise of infusing kind of the distrustful human fear of like invasion of the body snatchers, but also with super grotesque body horror.
Yes. Like usually when it comes to horror, my belief is for me to enjoy horror is it can't be too bleak. There's got to be some sort of hopefulness for it to be cathartic for me. And it can't be too gory just because I'm not into gore. So I should hate this
You should,
movie,
yeah.
But I love it. I don't know why.
Yeah, before we started recording, Joseph and I were talking about it a little bit. I also am a big fan of this movie. I think the best, like, era of movies is 1977 to 1985. Like, all the movies that came out during that period are probably some of my favorites. Ghostbusters, Alien, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, this film. It's just a time that I love. I don't know, a lot of the themes, the looks, the actors, everything is a culmination of stuff I really enjoy. So that already influences, I think, my opinion of this movie. But also, you know, when it comes to like body horror, and we've talked about this in the horror genre in general, if you make it good, I normally can get over whatever my general distaste for it. Like, you make a good scary movie,
Right.
I'm going to really like it. But also, like, with this and like the body horror element, it's kind of sprinkled throughout. It's not consistent. There are long periods of time where nothing gross happens. So I can sit through the 3 minutes of gross for another 30 minutes of not gross.
Yeah. There definitely is an aspect to this movie, to use a phrase that the kids were using like 4 or 5 years ago. Like, this movie watched Aliens and was like, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Like, it's like it took Aliens, like, hey man, remember how freaked out everybody was by the chestburster and Aliens? Well, let's just take that as our jumping off point and make everything worse than that.
Well, also a note from the IMDb trivia about that specifically is supposedly Alien was part of the reason that they went for a really aggressive practical effects budget, because they didn't want to have a man in a monster suit. So because they didn't like the way it looked in Alien.
That is funny, because watching Aliens as a kid, I never saw a man in a monster suit.
Mm-hmm.
But the first time I watched it as like in like late teens or adults, I was like, oh yeah, that's just a dude.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
you know.
pretty obvious in Alien 1, I think.
Yeah, I think Alien 1 is the worst one for that.
There's speaking of kind of like its influence in the cultural zeitgeist and its relation to Alien, and no one's going to care about this, but I'm going to share it anyway. There's a really great episode of Doctor Who that combines this premise, but with face huggers. It's a science team in, I think it's in the North Pole in Doctor Who, but they discover an ancient alien race under the ice that attacks them, but they're face huggers. And it's just a combo of Alien and The Thing.
I mean, look,
Right.
the only reason that this one doesn't have face huggers is because Ridley Scott already did it.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it absolutely would be in here.
that's all. Joseph, what did you think of this movie?
I was surprised. I was expecting to be more frightened of it than I was. I don't feel like it actually dials up like I guess kind of like the jump scare suspense that a lot of other horror movies do. You know, where you're like really, you know, you're really lingering on opening that one door or whatever the fuck. You know, even though I know it's stupid, that's the shit that always like makes me like real stressed out.
Right.
You know, this one's a lot more like, you know, who do we trust? Who can we trust? Who can't we trust? And then also just anytime they're close to the mutilating bodies, what possible horrible thing could happen? And the answer is all the horrible things. But for some reason, I don't feel like it like mentally scarred me. Like I thought it was effective, but I don't feel like it's gonna like keep me up at night.
Definitely the tension in this is not what's horrible is going to happen to this person, but what horrible thing am I about to see?
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty accurate.
Do we want to go over cast for this film? Since
There's only about
three people.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell, Wilford Brimley, and Keith David, and I like all of those guys.
I do too.
Yeah.
You know, Kurt. First off, let's applaud Kurt Russell's just general look here.
Oh, he looks like a badass.
It's high grade mountain man chic, and I love it.
It might be the best screen beard of all time. It's like neck and neck.
It's up there, yeah.
It's neck and neck with Jeff Bridges' like King Kong 76 beard, but it's one of my favorite. And I think
we should do a whole episode on best beards in movies.
Oh man, you are speaking my language right now. But I think that Kurt Russell might have just been raised by a John Wayne movie.
Right.
I don't think he had like parents. I think he was just raised by a John Wayne movie, and that's how he learned to speak. But I love him, and I love him in this particularly.
Yeah, I thought he was really good. And Keith David, like, I think he holds his own. Like, you know, there's kind of this like macho man, tough guy, not trusting each other between the two of them. And definitely Kurt Russell is the bigger star, even today. But definitely at that time, Kurt Russell was the bigger star. And I think Keith David does a good job going toe-to-toe with him throughout this movie.
And I think that's what's interesting because, like, I have nothing against Kurt Russell, and I also feel like he's got a star presence to him. It's just hard to put down, but at the same time, I'm not sure he's ever been a particularly good actor.
Right.
But somehow, you know, Keith David, I think absolutely, you know, like goes toe to toe. You know, they're kind of co-protagonists / antagonists in this movie. But I also just feel like Keith David's acting is better. I know he's had like an extensive and prolific career, but I'm always surprised that Keith David didn't like blow up more than he did.
Well, particularly after this, because I mean, very shortly after this, for whatever reason, he becomes like strange looking. But in this, he is legitimately fucking handsome. He's like leading man handsome in this movie.
Yeah, it is strange to me that I know, and I probably should have looked this up. I don't know what his career was like before this. And again, I realize we talked about how this was a flop, but it's amazing to me, to your point, Joseph, that he wasn't more of a thing. Like, he's been acting for 25, 35 years. I get it. But like, he's mostly done TV and voice work. And so it's weird to me that, like, he obviously is incredibly talented. Jehu, you're right. He is like a handsome leading man in this. He's really good. Why wasn't he, a next big star after this? And it's just strange.
Yeah, I can't explain it.
Do we want to go into spoilers, even though I don't know there's anything about this movie that people don't already know?
Also, Wilford Brimley, the diabetes guy.
Diabetes.
Doesn't have a mustache.
And, you know, man, honestly, you know, I don't know if it's great acting or anything, but since he's known as such a warm, cuddly figure, like, you know, it's pretty impressive that he is sort of the linchpin of the twists in this movie.
He's almost unrecognizable without his mustache.
He really is. He's just like another saggy old dude, you know?
It's funny you say his like perception is kind of this warm, cuddly figure, because I haven't seen a lot of movies with him, but I've seen a lot of interviews with Wilford Brimley, and he is not a warm, fuzzy guy in any respect. But he's got his like his own charm in like that really don't give a shit cowpoke kind of way.
Yeah, for sure.
The only other thing about the cast I'd like to say... Oh, he did?
Yeah. He did,
That's too bad. The only other thing I'd like to say about the cast, the guy who plays Gary, I think made a career after this of playing George Bush Sr., but not named George Bush Sr. Like, I think he played, like, the president, like, 4 times in the 90s or some shit like that.
He does look like George Bush Sr., though. That is a really fair point. But we can move on.
Yeah. We can get into spoilers as far as the actual plot of this movie. I do like the opening sequence. I think like does an effective job of telling you like something's fucking wrong,
right?
Because it's just weird to watch people shoot at a dog like their lives depend on it. Like that's just so strange, particularly in movies.
Right. Because at first it just seems like, oh, these are drunken assholes with a helicopter.
Right.
You know, but it definitely is an effective opener of getting you to wonder what the fuck is going on.
Absolutely
here,
agree. And you know what? That dog is arguably a better actor than every single person that in Sleepaway Camp that we watched last week.
The dog is pretty good.
The dog is really good.
I thought to myself, this is the best animal actor I've ever seen.
I thought the same thing.
When they're in the cages and he like is cautious about walking in there, I'm like, I actually feel like that dog is an alien and realizes this is a trap.
Yeah.
And when he's in the cage and just sort of sitting there and looking forward motionless, it was like, is this an effect or is this really the dog? Yeah, that dog deserved the Oscar.
Yeah, props to the dog.
Props to the dog indeed.
I always want to know, and again, I'm going to assume Jehu may know more about this than Joseph does, but why was that font for the opening credits the font of 1980s horror? Why?
I don't know. That's a good question.
They all look like that, and like I don't know if Ghostbusters is doing it to make fun of everything else, but I was like, oh, this is the Ghostbusters font. Like, why did we choose that this is what scary looks like when we type it out?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd never even thought of that until you said it, but that makes total sense because I was like, when that movie was starting, I was like, why are all 80s scary movies like immediately recognizable from the first second? And that's what it is. It's that font.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so weird to me.
So speaking of the dog in the cage, is really the first glimpse we get at like what's actually underneath there, which I feel like we've talked about this in another, I don't know when the last time we did a horror movie was, and I don't remember what the horror movie was, but I feel like we've talked about this before. Like definitely like all the weird like morphing and tentacles and spray and shit, all that shit is gross by itself, but it's just, everything is just a little bit grosser when it's just wet. Everything in this movie is so fucking wet, and it's gross as hell.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of spewing liquids in this film, and even though some of them look very fake, it doesn't take away from the gross factor at all.
Right? No, totally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of the plot we don't need to break this movie down. Scene
I
by scene.
don't even remember the order of the deaths.
But I did want to say, as a new viewer, Joseph, to me the iconic creature moment in this film is the human head on spider body.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What was that like for you?
I mean, honestly, the bit before it, I think, was the grosser bit, where the stomach opened up and just eats the guy's
that
arm.
part's hilarious.
And like that whole bit is fucked up. Yeah, but like the head like sliding off the table and then like pulling itself by like its weird tentacle tongue under the table. That's grosser to me than the spider legs with eyes thing. But the reaction of the characters to seeing the head with spider legs and eyes is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, that brings up another point to me. Like, it's funny, kind of the plot of this movie really churns on this like distrust of your fellow man. You don't know who's good and who's bad, who's creature and who's not. But overall, I think these guys handle this situation pretty freaking well. I understand.
That's actually a good point. For a horror movie, I feel like they act fairly rationally.
Yes. I mean, they all die, but I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't know that I would have done a better job in this scenario.
I can't think of anybody who really seems like, going into it, oh, you're a fucking idiot and you're about to die.
Yeah.
Which is what horror movies live and die by. But yeah, no, pretty much everybody in there who dies in this, it's almost like, well, there wasn't really a way around that.
Yeah, I think that is actually a strength of this film. Probably is.
Yeah.
It doesn't really play into a lot of those tropes, and there are tropes that exist in sci-fi and horror today that I think are from this movie. But it's a pretty clever plot wise. Like there's no like weakness or glaring holes or even moments that just you're like, oh, this is just set up for X kill or this event to happen later. Like I think it's like at a script level pretty strong.
Yeah, and I guess that to your point, that may be why it feels pretty strong, is because if we were getting like the suspicious like tells early on about who's going to get it or who deserves it or whatever, then a lot of the actual like interrogation scenes where they're trying to figure out may not feel as satisfying unless they just wanted to throw a red herring in there.
Right. Yeah.
But each time that they kind of reconvene to be like, who the fuck is it? Like it feels like it literally could be anybody.
Right.
Well, it does a really good job making the choice of not really having them interact with the creature individually and only having the interactions when they're with groups. I think is a really smart decision to help strengthen what you're talking about. Like none of it feels cheap or played out because you, the audience member, legitimately do not know.
Right. Yeah. Before we get too far, we're probably getting close to the end anyway, but I did want to shout out to whatever fucking computer system that they had down there in Antarctica, which is apparently the most advanced AI on the fucking planet. It does fucking diagrams with labels about how the virus spreads. It gives you percentage chance that there's somebody else infected in your crew and how long it'll take it to take over the fucking world.
Pretty
all in
quickly
one program.
too. Yeah,
It's impressive.
yeah.
Speaking of computers, also, I think pouring whiskey in the only video game computer they have there in the first scene is a waste of 2 valuable resources in Antarctica.
I mean, you're right, but I feel like it instantly tells you a lot about Kurt Russell's character.
Yeah, it does.
It's real good for that.
Well, that is another, the computer bit is kind of, I thought, another kind of nod to Alien as well. Like,
right.
This movie is, I don't know what exists without Alien existing before it.
Right.
Any other thoughts? Any things we have to say?
Well, so yeah, then we can skip really to the final scene where we mostly follow Kurt Russell, assuming that he's the protagonist, even though there's still some doubt, I guess, that he is not one of the things. He and 2 others try to blow up the thing wherever it was left. Keith David has been missing for a while. He was supposed to be at a post doing something and leaves his post. Kurt Russell's the only one that makes it out after blowing up what seemingly was the giant conglomerated thing. But then later, after that, being the only survivor, runs into Keith David, and it's the 2 of them just kind of sitting down. There's no structures, there's no heat, there's really no hope of survival for anybody. So they just kind of sit there and have a conversation about how there's nothing they can really do about it if one or the other of them is the thing. So they're kind of just waiting it out, which is a great scene. It's a great scene, and it's a great way to end the movie.
And great fucking last line. I guess we'll just sit here and wait and see,
Yeah, it's great.
I love it. So what do you guys think? Do you guys think one of them was the thing?
So have you guys heard the famous theory about this one?
No.
I've heard a few theories.
Okay, tell me some of your theories.
Well, I've heard one theory, which pans out when you watch it, that Keith David must be the thing because you can see Kurt Russell's breath and not see Keith David's in the cold.
That's the famous one.
There's also, I think that because Kurt Russell was making Molotov cocktails, that we're supposed to assume that the whiskey in the bottle isn't whiskey, it's gas.
Oh, I've also heard that one too, yeah.
So, but I think Carpenter says, nah, they're both just dudes at the end. But
he does, but that's fucking stupid. Don't tell us.
No,
because you're right. Because after Keith David drinks it, Kurt Russell gives off kind of like, just a little wry smile, a little bit like, I got you. But if that theory is correct, it could be how you could read it.
That's what I want to believe. I want to believe Keith David is the thing, but Kurt Russell knows it, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
It's like the top at the end of Inception. Sort of who you are as a person, you decide how that ends. And I decide, since I want things to work out, I decide that Kurt Russell makes shit happen after the camera stops rolling.
What I really like about this ending, and I think it's a brilliant ending for everything you guys have just talked about. I mean, the dialogue between the 2 of them is great. They're both great in it. But also, don't do your audience any favors. Just like, that is, you don't need to tie a bow on the end of everything. Allowing the audience to interpret it how they want or come up with their own endings is dope. More people should do it.
Right.
This is a great way to end a film. That the whole concept is you don't know who to trust.
Right.
Why at the end of the movie would I tell you, oh, you could have trusted this person the whole time? No, it takes away from everything else. It's a great way to end the movie.
For sure. And
totally agree.
To your point, I don't think this movie would have nearly the staying power that it's had if it had resolved, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the ending is a big part of why people like talking about it.
Right. No, totally. Absolutely.
It's such a perfect microcosm in 2 minutes of everything you've seen for the last 2 hours.
Right.
It just sums it up really, really well. And again, you're right. Just it creates staying power naturally. Like people are gonna talk about it. It's good advertising. Oh, have you seen the end of the thing? What the fuck was that about? What happened? Yeah. But it also thematically makes sense. I mean, it's just really clever.
Well done, John Carpenter. You really are the master. Also, before we completely move on, there is also a sequel to this. Am I correct? One that came out very recently, 2011. It's kind of a soft reboot, but I think set like in the same universe.
It's actually what it is. It's funny. Before it came out, I remember talking to Michael Williamson about it, and I was like, have you heard what it's going to be about? And he was like, it's going to be a prequel and a remake. And I was like, well, that's impossible.
Oh, prequel.
But that's exactly what it is. It is a prequel that's also the exact same movie.
Is it good?
It's about the Norwegians?
It's about the Norwegian station, but it turns out it was actually just a bunch of Americans there because, American audiences aren't going to watch a bunch of people speaking Norwegian.
Fair.
But it's Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I can't.
Joel Edgerton.
Joel Edgerton. Yeah, I was going to say the guy with the face who's in everything.
Yeah. Jason Clarke.
Yeah, exactly. But it's fine, but it's not great.
Doesn't capture the same magic, huh?
It does not. No.
I plan on watching it. I have yet to see it, but rewatching this film has kind of inspired me to actually finally do it because I kind of had boycotted it on principle,
right.
but now I don't have principles anymore. So
right, you're on a podcast.
There you go.
Correct. Yep. I watch Sleepaway Camp, so I have no more excuses.
One thing I meant to mention earlier, but I have to mention it before it's over. I think maybe the gateway for me into this movie through all its gore and bleakness is that fucking hat. What is with that hat that Kurt Russell wears?
It is a dopey hat.
It's like a hat that someone would wear to a baseball game, like a novelty hat. It's gigantic. I don't know what the purpose of it was, but whenever it's in a scene, it just totally takes the edge off the entire movie, and I love it.
That's a good point. It's a dumb fucking hat.
It's a real dumb hat.
We haven't talked about this for any of our other. We didn't talk about this last week. But since we're calling this one under the cult films, probably one of the cult films, if we really think about it, what criteria does this satisfy?
This one was, not successful at the time of release.
Yep. I would also argue poster.
Definitely a dorm room poster. Definitely, like this poster is so much more famous than the movie itself.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think that's it for The Thing, and also for our Halloween Horror for Cowards. We did it, guys.
We sure did.
None of us died of fright. Maybe next year. That would be pretty funny if we just we lost a podcaster a year. Just have to keep replacing them. Oh man. But yeah, that's it for The Thing and Halloween Horror for Cowards. If there's any other horror movies you want us to watch, let us know at realfun@gmail.com. It's probably not going to be our first choice, but we're
hurting for content.
We pander to our audience. That's fine. What have we been watching this past week, guys?
I legitimately don't remember anything that I watched. But I watched one thing I know for a fact. Blood of Zeus, which is a new Netflix anime.
Was it good?
Made by the same studio that makes Castlevania.
It looked like it.
It's very much the same show. Demons are the bad guys. There's a special family with powers. There is a woman side character who kicks some ass. It's about a dude coming to terms with himself and his legacy. And again, they're fighting demon hordes. It's basically the exact same show.
I don't think I could do 2 Castlevanias. One's probably enough for me.
It is okay. I mean, I do think Castlevania is better. Their interpretations of the gods are interesting. In some I don't claim to be an expert on Greek mythology, but from what I know, some of the things are pretty faithful, and some things are cool interpretations, and of course some things are just total made up whatever they want to do. But yeah, look, it's got the most predictable twist I think I've experienced in a long, long time, and yeah, it's probably worse than Transformers, but it's only 8 episodes. It takes 2 hours to watch the whole season. So yeah, I'd rather probably watch this than watch Transformers 1 again. But now that I'm through it, I'd probably take Transformers over it. It's hard, but yeah, I don't know. Blood is Zeus. It's on Netflix.
Fair enough. Hurt?
You know what? I had a very uneventful week for watching too. We've been.
You haven't been talking about watching for years.
I know. I've only been talking about Van Halen, and I want to say I almost talked about Van Halen this week again, but I think at this point I might actually turn people off of Van Halen if I did force Van Halen. So, me and Sarah have been trying to do a new thing. Instead of chugging down one show, we're trying to like stagger some shows and watch one night and one the next. So, we're watching Fargo. We're watching the second season of The Boys. We're watching The Haunting of Bly Manor, and we're watching some fourth show that I can't even remember. But
you haven't finished Haunting of Bly Manor yet? You were on episode 6 last week. There were only 9.
We had like a rough week this week of just busy stuff going on. But definitely when shit like that comes up, we go to The Boys because it's dumb and you don't have to pay attention. But yeah, I would give all those shows better than Transformers. Of course, out of the three of them, Fargo is head and shoulders above it or anything else on television. Have you guys watched any of this new season yet?
I haven't yet.
No, Ian's talked about it. He's really raved about it. But
I almost never try to talk you guys into watching anything, but you guys should start watching that shit. It's fucking dope. And that's it. That's all I got.
Cool. I've watched a couple things this week. My Miyazaki film this week was actually a Miyazaki film. It's The Wind Rises. It was supposedly his last movie. For anybody who's not deep into the Ghibli lore, Hayao Miyazaki pretty much wanted to be a pilot and couldn't do it, and instead became an animator and put things about flying in all of his movies. So this one is about a loosely historical, actually, story about a Japanese airplane engineer, I guess. What's the word I'm looking for? Aeronautical engineer? Maybe. I don't know. He designs airplanes. In
aerospace?
Sure. In like the 1920s. It's not bad, it's not fantastical in pretty much any way besides, he just kind of like dreams about flight. But, Miyazaki makes pretty good films. My problem is it's just a little too fucking on the nose for me. It felt as indulgent a movie as The fucking Irishman felt for Martin Scorsese. Because again, everybody knows that Miyazaki just loves fucking planes, and he just did a whole fucking movie about planes. And not only that, but like the whole airplane designer thing is a very, very, very thinly veiled metaphor for, being an animator and creating things. And much of the story is about like the young engineer is looking up to this older engineer who's kind of passing the baton, and the younger engineer, the main character of the movie, is played by Hideaki Anno, who is the director of Neon Genesis Evangelion and other things. And it was just way too fucking on the nose for me. I think if I didn't know anything about Miyazaki, I could have enjoyed this movie more, but it just felt very like ham-fisted trying to teach me things, and I didn't enjoy that. But only 3 left. But there are 3 of the worst ones, so we'll see how it goes. I watched Queen and Slim with Daniel Kaluuya.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Jodie Turner-Smith, I think is her name. It's, the kind of the Black Bonnie and Clyde story. But it's really like, it's kind of a narrative way of displaying kind of the Black American relationship with police and the justice system, but kind of through the lens of these 2 particular characters who are in a traffic stop that goes bad, and they end up killing a cop who is Sturgill Simpson, unexpectedly. I was really surprised by that because I recognized his face, but it was like recognizing somebody from like a place they don't belong. And then I was like, who the fuck is this guy? It was Sturgill Simpson. It's really good. It's really well shot. The acting, Daniel Kaluuya and Jodie Turner-Smith are really, really good. It's a little long. And some of the writing, particularly between the 2 mains, are like, it's a little iffy. But I think it's definitely worth a watch. It's definitely better than Transformers. And the last thing that I watched this week is I finished my anime, Steins Gate, which I was not hot on the last week because the first 6 episodes are functionally nothing. But I warmed up on the last half of it. So again, it's a time travel show. Ian would hate the shit out of it. So there's pretty much there's 3 kinds of time travel rules in movies,
Right.
or stories in general. And even though there are rules, pretty much every time travel story breaks their own internal consistency. But fucking whatever, it's whatever.
Right.
But the first one is that time is immutable, deterministic. You can go back in time, but whatever is going to happen has already happened, and you can't actually change anything that happened. I'm going to call that. Is that Terminator logic? No, it's not Terminator logic. Something along that line.
It's what Terminator logic purports to be,
right?
But
sure.
then it breaks those rules. Yeah.
2, which is like Back to the Future rules, which is that you can go back and change the past.
Right.
That's also great. And then I feel like X-Men Days of Future Past cheated and created a third one where you get to send your own consciousness back in time. So it's just you with all your memories from the future acting in the past to change events of the future.
Technically, Peggy Sue got married did that too, years before.
Don't you call me out.
But that's exactly what you would do.
That's fair. But this show does all 3 and breaks all 3 rules. So, there's that. But it is fun on the second half of the show because the first half, as slow as it is kind of them just like playing around with this time travel that they accidentally invented, and then realizing on the latter half that there are super dire consequences to the shit they did, and then desperately trying to undo all the things that they've already done, which is pretty interesting. And then over the course of that last half, it actually develops what I would consider to be one of a fairly better anime love story within this time travel centric story. So by the end of it, I really like it. I still don't know if it's, it takes a while to get into. I'm not going to push it on anybody, but if you want just a fun, interesting time travel story, Steins Gate, it's pretty good.
Right on.
So yeah, everything was better than Transformers. I had a good week.
Good for you.
Thank you. But I think that's it. I know we don't know what we're doing next week because we don't have a structure anymore. What is November? Is November anything?
We haven't done a news roundup in a few weeks. We could do October. We definitely could talk about Oscar Isaacs next week.
Yeah. All right. Well, next week we'll plan on a news roundup, and then we'll be lost again. But 1 week at a time.
I just thought of it during this episode, but at some point I feel like we have to exploit the fact that we have a unicorn among us. Like the only white male on earth born before the year 2000 who's never watched The Godfather. Like surely we have to make an episode out of that at some point, right?
I don't know how to do that, but maybe.
We definitely should do that. And one we've talked about a ton, and we were saving for that last Nolan piece of shit. But we need to do time travel movies at some point.
Oh, fuck. Totally. You're right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, one of these days. But next week, news roundup.
All right.
But thanks to everybody for listening. Please rate, subscribe, tell your friends about the podcast. If you think that there are any important horror movies that we missed that are worth talking about, either because they're really good or really bad, you can reach us at realphonies@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter at realphonies, and on Instagram at real_phonies. Thanks to Zach Evans for art and Brian Velasquez for our theme. We'll see you guys later.
Later.